All right, I'm glad you're still with us here on MorningAtNTV. It's 21 minutes to the hour of 9, and within that time we are going to talk languages. And I do not know how many languages you know if you are watching, whether you are in the office lobby or in your living room at home or at the shop. Personally, I know 7 languages, and those languages, Chinese is not one of them. French is not one of them, and that is a huge disadvantage. 7 languages, and I don't have French in there. Interesting. According to the Department of Education Research in the United States, it's been found that knowing many languages has its benefits, and that you should be able to focus on at least 1 or 2 on top of what you already know. There's a lot that we are going to learn in this particular conversation. I am joined by Michael Kushemererwa. I would describe him as he is a suspect. You've been here before. And we talked a little bit of French. I'm ashamed I can't sustain a conversation right now. You would be very disappointed as a teacher, but that will embolden my efforts to learn French again. You're a French teacher whose journey is traced back to a scholarship you earned in the language in 1999 at the Institute of Teacher Education in Kyambogo, hence opening vast opportunities for you, and that has seen you go higher and higher. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I'm also joined by Pauline Dinet. You're a representative from Alliance Française. You're most welcome to the program, as well as Miss Flavia Ntambi. You are the head of courses at Alliance Française. Have I pronounced that right?
Head of courses.
Head of courses is
yes.
Pauline Dinet.
Yeah.
Yes.
You are
Director, Airtel.
Director, Human Resource?
Airtel.
Yeah.
Airtel. Oh, interesting. There's a mix-up of languages. I'm already lost. But anyway, let me begin with the gentleman, Mr. Kushemererwa. You've hammered down this time and again about the need for people to be able to speak at least more languages than 1. If you can speak 10, the better. I think you will be able to survive in this world at any one time if you can speak 10.
Yeah.
But you don't have to speak 10. You must focus.
But if you can speak 10,
you must focus on the languages that you ought to speak. Right now, if I were to ask a question, as a corporate player seeking to make headway, what are the languages I must speak and speak well?
Okay, first of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity, for hosting me again and again. And I also would like to thank my boss, Hajat Kawi, of Nasunsa Girls School, for supporting me all the time. I want to make this through. The languages, you have to really know, if you can know more, the better for you, but the ones are very, very important. Of course, one of them is English, which we all know. Okay, I would assume that most of us know English. And then
that one seems to come a little more naturally to Ugandans.
And then when you, apart from English, we have French language, which is widely spoken across the world. Another language I could talk about would be maybe like Spanish, but I want to talk more about those ones. But what I want to make emphasis on French and English, at the moment, because it is the one that you find in most institutions around the world. They use them more frequently, even in when you go for employment, companies, you know, it's always French, English. Yes.
All right. Now that means that for any initiative that is underway, Alliance Française, I hope I'll get that right in terms of pronunciation, should be rolling out many of the courses that allow Ugandans go and quickly learn French without necessarily being beaten down by the vagaries of long study durations, 3 years studying a language. Should be able to do it within 6 months or so. Just take us up to speed with what is on offer and what exactly this particular initiative means for Alliance Française.
Right. So our offers, you mean for classes? What are the options for?
You can talk about that a little later, but the importance of learning a foreign language, especially French rather, in this particular stage.
Yes, so I think French in Uganda makes a lot of sense because, well, as you may know, DRC joined the East African community recently. Yes, so it makes a lot of sense, not only in East Africa, so quite locally, but also in the whole African continent and also worldwide, because French is not only very much spoken, but it's also going to be more and more spoken, according to research, in the coming decades. So that's why. That's
because of the wide nature of the market that is now available. You have to speak to the people you're selling to in the language they understand. Okay, so what are the course options, and how flexible are they for the average Ugandan at Alliance Française? Yes, so you have different options. So you have group classes that one can join according to, you know, the schedule and also the modality that suits them best, because while we mostly have face-to-face classes, we also have online or hybrid, which is when some people are in a classroom and some others are joining online. So we also try to teach not only, because we're based in Kambogo, Alliance Française, but we also teach, we have classes at UNCC, National Theatre. Yes, so then we also have private classes for people who want to have, you know, an individual class. And then we also have corporate classes, and actually Airtel Uganda benefited from those. That's where we train the, you know, staff members of a company. We actually go to the company to train them. Yeah. All right. So, Mrs. Flavia Luanga.
Yes. You
are a beneficiary.
Yes, I am.
I'm afraid to attempt to engage you in French. let me stick to English. How has been your experience like as part of the rollout of Airtel and Alliance?
It's very interesting. I think I will just quickly go into the business itself.
Yeah.
Airtel Uganda is part of Airtel Africa, which is part of Airtel India, or international. And you find that Airtel is in 14 countries. And half of those countries are Franco. So French is the main language of communication.
That's right. Yeah.
It's the business language. Whilst the other half is English. So some of us on this side of Anglo, and the other team, half the team is on Franco.
Yeah.
So how does Airtel come into this whole piece? We are an export of talent as well, as an OPCO. We want our people to go visit other countries and work there, get new experiences.
That's right.
So we realized that once we have all this opportunity, then language became a showstopper. So that's when in 2016 we partnered with Alliance Française and started the language courses. So they come to our campus, or let's say our offices. We have two main offices in Bogolobi and Clement Hill, and they come, they send us teachers, and then Airtel has put together a program that enables us to actually pay for this, and then we have a number of workers or employees.
Yeah, okay. Essentially, it's a case of being able to export Ugandan human capital to these countries.
It increases our ability. We already do, but we are largely restricted to Anglo. But we want to get into the French-speaking countries as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's interesting. You'll be telling us a little bit more about how that particular experience has helped you improve both productivity, but most importantly, how you relate, especially with your colleagues. But let me return to the teaching of French, and this one goes to Michael Kushemererwa. The diversification of skills and technology, maximizing everything that comes with learning. You have rolled out programs. The other time we spoke about students at one of the leading schools in the country. Has that gone beyond students to be able to, as Flavia Luanga says, incorporate those that might want to work in communities or countries that are mainly French-speaking?
Yeah, thank you so much. You've talked about technology. Yeah, and I want to emphasize about this issue. For instance, we now have many platforms that a person can use to learn this French. So when you look at corporate people who are so busy, you can't, for instance, can't come to Alliance Française. They can be able to use these platforms like Zoom or Google Meet to conduct live classes at their convenience. And this helps them to add on their CV. So that they can reach places which are unreachable because of language barrier. Like she said, that Airtel would like to really go to French-speaking countries, but then we Ugandans, we are basically Anglophone. We are really cut off. We can't go beyond. So that's why we are here to encourage the viewers. It's high time to really get on board the corporate class, the young students in schools. It's high time to get on board and learn this French, especially the program at Alliance Française.
All right. Yes, now that, of course, brings me back to Pauline Dinet. Talk to us about the nature and the trajectory of French learning programs in the country that have been, away from the fact that there are courses right now. How has it been? How did it begin? Away from, I'm sure it didn't come out as more like instruction that is school-based. It was a case of, we are in Uganda, we have a French embassy, and we are relating with the government, and that was that. How did you transition from that to incorporate this kind of arrangement?
Yes, so what we get most from our students, what brings people to Alliance Française, what we hear the most, and even for children, teenagers, it's professional reasons and future opportunities that French brings. So once again, the corporate, and even for children, because why do they learn French now? It's for their future. But yes, Alliance Française has been around for quite some time, and since 1956, 54.
Wow.
Yeah, because we're actually part of a network. There is about 800 Alliance Française in the world, so it's a network. Yes, so we've been here for some time, but as of today, what brings people really is professional, mostly.
That's a significant contribution when you talk about the alumni, so to speak, the people who have gone through Alliance Française. What has happened after that, the follow-up? Because Ugandans need to know, we are a country or a people that want to see and touch things. You know, the people who have gone through Alliance Française and have learned French, what opportunities have they been able to? Have they gone to France? Have they been co-opted into certain organizations? So that the viewer out there who is struggling with making that particular decision can say, hey, if I go and study French, maybe I'll find myself as a master of ceremonies at the next Cannes Film Festival.
Right. So yeah, when you learn French, you have different levels that you pass, right? So well, you need to go through the beginners before you have a more advanced level. But then when you have a more advanced level, I know that because we are training staff members of different UN branches, for instance, and I know that for them, starting at level maybe B1, you have just more opportunities, and then at level B2 you can also study in France. There's a Campus France that is a platform allowing students to see their possibilities to study in France. So you can and that happens to Ugandans every year. So yeah.
So Ugandans can study all the curricula, like the average French citizen studies in France. Is that the case?
Yes, basically you can get a scholarship, but it's only if you speak French. Right. Okay. So that's why.
All right. Your experience again.
My experience.
Yeah.
I'll bring in very personal experience. So I think today I see it's coming on the curriculum, and I think yesterday I was in a school, primary school. Okay. We had gone to check out how they're doing, and I realized they are taking language very seriously. So they have Kiswahili, they have French, they have a few others. I noted specifically those two. I wish if I were, you can't go backwards, but if I'd gone backwards, if I had that chance, I would have used it. Because in primary school, that opportunity came so many years ago, yeah? But it came when they put it, it wasn't part of the curriculum. Yeah. It was put in a time when I should be playing. So I didn't take the opportunity.
Interesting. Yeah.
I wish I had. But I loved the idea of another language. In my secondary school, I picked it up, but it's not easy, because one thing I've seen about languages, it's one thing to say, have a second language. you've said you have about 7
I speak about 7
languages.
French,
If I look at all this, if I group them, for instance, I might find that the languages you speak are largely Bantu.
Bantu, yeah.
Yeah? So they're all in one cluster. The structure is exactly the same, right? So it's easy to pick them up.
Even if you don't know the language, as in you can't speak it very well, you can pick up, and they can also pick on what you're saying, and you guys can go. Yeah,
because the dialect is pretty much the same. Now, structure also matters. So when you go to speak English away from Bantu, you realize it's a very different structure. So you're learning, and you know, what does the brain feed on? New information, always. So it broadens your mind. So my knowing Bantu languages is good. But then when I add on another, which is my English, my perspective also grows. Now, when I come from English and then I go into French, again the structure changes completely, you know. So I've given myself the opportunity to learn, and I'm still learning. And I find it so tough to learn when you're older. But if you give your mind to it and you focus and say, I must learn the language, then you will learn it. I've gone to French-speaking countries, and if you can't speak, it's so difficult.
Very, very difficult indeed.
Very difficult to communicate. And you know, we are social beings, so the more languages you learn, it improves your socialization. It improves your understanding of culture, because culture, I mean, language is the gateway to culture. When you understand the language, then you learn other people's culture, and guess what? As you're learning other people's culture, you learn more about your own self, your own culture, and say, oh, okay, we are different. You learn to see things from different perspectives, and that works even in your normal day-to-day, as you work, as you live, the decisions you make.
That's right.
It broadens your mind. So I think language is a very important thing. Like I said, there's the group of languages, Bantu, but there's also the different, complete structure, different vocabulary, grammar, everything.
Okay. Time is not our very best ally now, but I would like to ask a question that should have gone to you, but you've, in a way, talked about the challenges of rolling out how French is taught in schools, and at what particular point in time. Is it something that you're addressing as key stakeholders, as instructors?
For us, actually, like she said, that, you know, learning at old stage is quite challenging. So this is why right now we are here, me and my colleagues here. We are here to raise and create awareness for advocating for multilingualism.
Multilingualism.
Yeah, that's very important. You know, multilingualism is going to help everyone else here. And this goes to the young, the old, especially if you're young right now. Don't lose the chance of taking on the offer of learning French, especially the DEF program, because we see that this DEF program, it is internationally recognized in French-speaking countries and institutions around the world. So it is something that has a lot of value when you add it on your papers, like students who are studying French right now, later after the university, because remember, this qualification does not expire.
It doesn't.
It is valid for life. You know, even after your degree, you are attached. You know, you're better than this person who has a first class and that doesn't have languages. And I will get a job before you get it.
Critical skill indeed. Let's give the parting shots to Pauline Dinet on this issue and the campaign for learning French as another important language. Your parting shots? As in wrap this up and then
yes, okay. Yes, so I would say that I feel like French in schools, I mean, it's something we're trying to put more dynamics into. We have this school competition. Michael knows all about it. It's called Enjogera Français. I speak French.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a school competitions where students take the DELF, this qualification Michael was talking about that is valid for life. And it's a competition because we award prizes, right? And Michael, again, can tell you about it because since he brought many students to take this, he actually spent 2 weeks in France doing a training. So yes, so that's something we were trying to do. We also do cultural activities in the school that partner with us to really motivate and promote French. Yes.
So how can somebody who wants to be part of this initiative follow you guys? Is it on social media, on your websites? Quickly tell them.
Yes, we're pretty much everywhere. Yeah, so it's Alliance Française, but you can also reach out to reception at afkampala.org for more information about this program, the classes, anything.
Then you can also find out more. Those who sometimes are unable to go to Alliance Française. I'm also online. FrenchLearningMadeEasy.com. That's why I also conduct.
FrenchLearningMadeEasy.com.
Yeah, that's where most students also find me. Yeah, so it's an online platform that people can use. I developed it myself, especially during COVID-19. Yeah, when I brought actually the many students Pauline is talking about. Yeah, so that I was able to get an award and win a trip to France.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael Kushemererwa, French language teacher, and of course one of the beneficiaries that of course had a very interesting story to tell. Many thanks to you too, Mrs. Flavia Ntambi.
You're welcome.
You are a beneficiary but also Human Resource Director at Airtel. We hope you can be posted to France.
Sure.
And we shall talk about that later. And of course thanks to Pauline Dinet, who is the head of courses at Alliance Française. I'm going to be learning some bit of French after the show, so for those of you, tomorrow or next week, if I begin the show and I'm blurting some words you might be struggling to understand, it will be perfect French, but to your ears it will be a challenge to go and take up the learning of French as an extra language. It's been a pleasure having your company on behalf of the team that's behind the scenes, ensuring that this is a colorful and of course very productive 2.5 hours. Many thanks. Have yourself a lovely day. I'll see you tomorrow.